But first tonight, Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke has repeatedly refused to say whether or not the Australian government would arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he was to visit Australia.
Doesn't Benjamin Netanyahu risk arrest by your agencies if he were to come here?
Penny's made a comment that she's made consistently about Australia's support for international law. Our support for international law is something that used to be bipartisan. She's made that simple statement about an institution that we signed up to under the Howard government. And Penny hasn't elaborated further on that, nor will I.
Implicit in that is you'd have to arrest him, isn't it? Unless you want to leave the court.
Having just said Penny hasn't elaborated further on that, nor will I, that's as far as I'm going to go in.
I would have thought it's a pretty simple question. It's also an important question. Israel is supposed to be a major ally. Australia's Jewish community is under siege, and Hamas terrorists, don't forget, still hold 97 Israelis hostage. Now, this is the Home Affairs Minister, and Australians have every right to know what our government proposes to do about this ICC ruling. For Tony Burke to go on national television and equivocate is pure cowardice. The ICC are accusing Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of a democratic country, of being a war criminal. They're putting him on the same pegging as some of the worst terrorists in the world. What does the Australian government think? And we don't know, because they won't say. They simply defer to the ICC and say, well, we stand by our obligations to the blah, 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 blah. This is cowardice of the worst kind. We really want a government that stands for principles, and instead all they do is posture. It's a betrayal of Israel, who are supposed to be one of our key allies.
Absolutely.
And here they are refusing to give a clear answer about what they think of the democratically elected leader of one of our allies. And while they're in the middle of a fight, no less, against nations that want to destroy them, it's a betrayal of democratic states, because the ICC only go after leaders in nations where they say there is not a legal system that is able or willing to do it. So what are they saying about Israel? Are they saying that Israel doesn't have a legal system that is able to prosecute war crimes?
Clearly.
This leaves open the possibility that the ICC could go after other democratic states. And it's a betrayal of the Australian public, Danica, because we have a right to know what our government... I don't care what the ICC says. What does Tony Burke say? Well, I wouldn't have a clue, because he won't answer the question.
Look, the silence is deafening, isn't it? First we had Penny Wong with the wishy-washy answers, now followed up a week later, Tony Burke following suit. And really, when you put two and two together, if you can't come out and give us a clear answer that, yes, we would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, no, we wouldn't arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, I feel as though it's safe to say that we would then consider Benjamin Netanyahu to be an alleged war criminal at this point.
That's the implication.
Because that is the implication. When you've got the United States, and bear in mind, I don't give Joe Biden credit at whatsoever, because he has also been very wishy-washy on this topic, but I'm about to for the very first time. At least Joe Biden had the gall to come out last week and say that this was an outrageous decision, and that there is no moral equivalence between Israel and Hamas. Yet you've got Australia on the other hand, and it's almost as though that is what is being suggested, because the ICC's decision, James, realistically emboldens terrorists. It says to Hamas or any other terrorist group in the world that in the event that you attack a country, you murder people, you rape people, you torture people, then that country doesn't have a right to fight back. Otherwise, guess what? We're going to declare them a war criminal. And let's not forget, Israel is one of our closest allies, and we have absolutely betrayed them from the very beginning, from October 7, and still to this day, with really daft answers, dumb answers, and if you were a Jewish person in this country, you would be flabbergasted right now.
Yeah, you would be very, very depressed.
And worried, and extremely worried at that.
The other irony of Tony Burke's interview on Sky today was he talked about the opposition saying that the government should withdraw from the ICC. And he said, well, you know, involvement in the ICC has always been a bipartisan thing. Well, so too has our support for Israel at the United Nations.
Correct.
That's always been bipartisan as well. In fact, Anthony Albanese promised not to change that before becoming Prime Minister. And of course, he's completely gone his own way and left bipartisanship in the dust. So for Tony Burke to go on about bipartisanship...
Let's be honest, James. What are we forgetting here? We're forgetting that there is an election due very, very soon. And what's up for grabs? Western Sydney seats, including Tony Burke's very own seat, which is being, of course, potentially challenged by the Muslim votes. This is all it has been political from the very, very beginning. We've shown no gall, no spine on this matter. And today, with the wishy-washy answers, another example of where Australia is at.
Which is why I said, when you look for principle, all you find with this government, sadly, is political posturing.